recording before you get a chance to actually get to it?
No, unless you like stream 5 different times.
Okay, probably
or
not.
something like that. Like, if you have to, let me know and I'll get in and save it real quick. But
okay, it's up for me. Except now I'm getting another commercial.
there we go. It's up for me. I just
Okay.
had to refresh.
Okay,
So I would just
cool.
tell people to refresh. If you're having a problem, refresh.
Yeah, just listen to us. Refresh. If you can't hear us, refresh.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can't hear my voice, refresh. That's how you know you need to refresh.
So what you're saying is refresh.
Yes.
Can you refresh me on that?
Be fresh.
Be fresh.
Be fresh.
Eat fresh.
Okay.
Hey kids, it's Be Fresh.
Yo,
Your friend,
yo!
Yo, on Be Fresh, only order fresh produce.
And shower daily.
From Fresh Goods. Yeah,
Make
twice.
sure your produce comes off only the chillest reefers.
If you live in the middle of the country, don't eat fresh fish, because guess what? It's not fresh, yo.
Yo.
By the way, that there's somebody out there that knows exactly how funny that joke I made was.
Oh, no,
It's like
Twitch is
one
stalling.
person, but it's pretty good.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
None of that came out robot-y?
is that have the test? You just say a really long word?
Yeah, just a really long word. I mean, why not? I figured if I'd say a really long word without saying anything else, without trying to interrupt myself, I just keep on talking because I'm trying to think of something to talk about right now to hear if my voice gets all robotic and such. And so far, you guys are just kind of looking awkwardly in silence as if...
Well, I mean, this is what what typically happens. You've gone into boss explanation mode now, and we're just
Yeah, I'm trying to roll.
what's going on Twitter, I guess.
This
Google's
glazed
got a
look
new
appears over your
logo.
eyes, and it's kind of like Rose talking a
Just-
lot.
Okay.
Time to type to John.
Messages.
Wait, what
gotta
are we
do
supposed
it.
to do? I stopped paying attention.
Checking cell
Image
phone.
search. Phase 2.
I hate you guys so much. What was that? Okay, ready to pull? Great, here we go.
Oh,
Man.
good. Yes, we're gonna learn the fight. All right, I'm ready, guys.
I'm sorry, what did you say about phase 2? About what do I have to dispel?
Ben, can you tell people what to do?
Yeah, okay, quick and dirty. Healers, don't stand the poop, heal everybody. Tanks, you're going to swap at 3 stacks. And DPS, if you're melee, stay on the boss. If you're ranged, kill the ads.
Okay, let's do it.
Got it. That is, without an actual row explanation to go along with it, that is a very accurate accounting of what it was like raiding with us.
Yeah.
Ro,
Pretty
will you
much.
tell people about the fight? 30
right.
minutes later, and a bunch of glazed
And
looks.
then 30 minutes later, and then on the second phase,
That's when the shit really hits the fan.
yeah, then you
That's
really
when
have to pay attention.
they gain more than one ability. Let me tell you about them.
Let me tell you about the 4 different abilities that each of these 3 things have.
Yeah, but on phase 2, they're all empowered and they do different things. So,
Oh, man.
Ro, you're an important part of the team, and your descriptions are an important part of it.
Yeah.
Of course they are. If it weren't for my descriptions, you wouldn't have anything to make fun of.
yeah, you're perfect
I
in
mean,
every other way.
I wouldn't have my sweet sleep therapy tapes.
So you
No,
listen
I
to
have
raid
heard-
explanations by me to help you go to sleep?
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Every time.
Everybody has their thing. Arlena has
look.
StarCraft.
And where's my commission? I'm not even seeing a dime. Are you
Not
selling
se-
my
no,
tapes?
I'm not selling them. I'm
It's
keeping them for
personal
myself 'cause I'm
use.
greedy.
Oh, personal use.
Yeah. No, I will tell you
You
this. Ro.
add in the sound of ocean waves.
All jokes aside, no, that'd wake me up. I have heard from people on our raid team that say that your descriptions are what helps them.
Yes.
So I think people need both. I think people need the long row description, and then I need something that is, or other people need something shorter, which is usually what Ben does. And then I need somebody to just say pull so I can just look at it and figure it out.
You let Deadly Boss Mods tell you.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say,
So-
I love it when we have someone new who hasn't come with us, and I'm just like, just stick with them. They're your accountability buddy.
Yeah.
My favorite is when I haven't been in raid for like 3 weeks, and I get in, and all of a sudden a symbol appears above my head, and I'm like, well, this is gonna go interestingly.
Everybody, stay
So
away
does
from
this
John.
mean everyone stack on me or everyone get away from me?
I've been assigned some sort of responsibility, it seems.
Yeah. All right.
I'm ready whenever you guys are. I've read the notes and I'm good to go.
Yep, I was actually just about to say, like, hey, let's start this.
Yeah. I'm gonna pretend to type for a moment.
That's John
Okay,
pretending to type.
I'm ready. Let's go. That was real professional looking, right?
It was.
Yeah, I'm good at it.
So, whenever you're ready, Ro.
Okay. Hi, this is Ro from the Realm Maintenance Podcast, and I'm here tonight to answer for my crimes of Celebrity Murloc Rickroll this week on Azeroth.
I think that's the first time I've seen Ro do the Murloc impression. He gets
Yes,
way
this is
into
why
it.
you have to
It's a
watch.
visual thing.
This
That
is
was
why you have
great.
to watch the live stream on Twitch, guys. You just got to see me Murloc out.
John, you do one now. I just want to see the difference. I'll do one too, so that no one's left out.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Okay, mine is.
You see, you put a lot of tongue into it. For me, it's more of just that
I do.
guttural
Yeah, I
gargle.
do.
There's a lot of tongue.
Yeah.
Some would say too much. but
No
the
one's
French
ever
are-
complained.
Yeah.
Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 130. My name is Ben Bumhofer, and with me, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
I'm muted so I could delete something I was typing and decided not to type, but I'm here now. Hi, Ben.
That's good. Everybody has to make good choices during the day, and I'm assuming that was one of them.
Yeah, well, it's just I like to feel busy while I'm doing the show. So I like to do other things, but I got to mute when I do it because my keyboard's loud.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm actually up to something because it's like, okay, click mute, type. Oh, Ben's talking to me. Unmute, stop typing, start talking. Makes sense.
Mute.
Say something in an attempt to be funny. Okay, good, let's go. That's, that's a little behind the scenes action for you.
Yeah, that works.
Be
That
careful.
works.
People could unsubscribe to your podcast for hearing that kind of stuff in the first few minutes of your show.
Oh God, that whole thing.
What I'm up to, the tech behind the show,
Mm-hmm.
our sweet technical process.
Yep.
Hey,
Especially if you talk about Twitch for an extended period of time.
Well, we haven't done that.
not
Don't
yet.
bring up Twitch. Look at you sabotaging us.
Jeez,
Bro's like, hey,
man.
here's what not to do on a podcast. Let me go ahead and start by doing the things that everybody says not to do.
Well, I guess that means that the show's over. So,
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
it.
Ro.
We don't want to talk about it at the beginning. So we're done.
oh yeah, and by the way, welcome to the show, Brian Black. Welcome, man. It's such a great time having you on every time. And in fact, I wasn't here the last time you were, so I'm super excited because it feels like I haven't talked to you in forever.
Yeah, it just feels like a day ago that I last talked to you.
Yeah, in fact, just about 24 hours even.
Pretty much. I'm actually surprised that I'm on right now because is BlizzCon next week, guys? Did I miss something?
Yes,
No.
yes it is. For you.
All right.
I wish it was.
Wait, why do you wish it was, John? Is there something you aren't telling us?
I think there's going to be announcements at BlizzCon Row, and I'm excited
Oh.
to see the announcements.
Oh, okay. So you still have yet to confirm or deny if you're going to BlizzCon.
That's right.
I confirm he hasn't denied it.
And
It's true.
I deny that I've confirmed it.
That's how it works. That's how it works. Yeah, so, John, last week we ended the show with you saying, but I have so much more to talk about.
Yes, and hopefully you're not going to ask me to recall what I wanted to talk about.
No, I wasn't going to do that at all.
Okay, because I don't remember. That was a week ago.
That's great.
I don't know what I was going to talk about yesterday, but I will tell you this, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that we've been getting some interesting emails. And I do remember the last week we mentioned one specifically that we said we should talk about at some point.
Yes.
So that is from our good friend and I would say frequent for you, raid leader Tetsemi.
Co-raid
I was gonna say occasional raid leader, and then I was like, oh, but that's just because I haven't been there. He's actually continued to be the raid leader on a regular basis. It's just I haven't been showing up.
It's not like the whole tree thing. If Tetsemi leads a raid and you're not there to witness it, he's still leading a raid.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good to know.
There are
Good.
at least 9 other people, which, really quick. Okay, so last night in Raid, something happened that hasn't happened, I think, this entire expansion. 10 people showed up. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
kind of weird. We went in there, we totally kicked ass, too.
Well, good. So the right 10 people showed up.
For the most part. I mean, I was there, so
Yeah.
9
Colin.
good people showed up, and me.
Oh, look at you.
Well, Arsalan came in later to pick up your slacks.
That's true.
Even though you were healing and he was DPSing,
Hey.
so I'm not sure how that works.
I DPS'd a little bit. I helped
Oh.
get Tet out of a hand once.
Nice.
Gross.
Anyway,
Bro and I
sorry.
have different opinions of what we're into, clearly. Ooh, nice. Yeah, gross. So anyway, he sent us an email. And first of all, I love how this email begins because it sounds like we were in the middle of a conversation and he was just like, oh, I got to include this. He says, just another thought that came to me. I know John has backstories for a lot of his characters. I'm wondering if Blizzard changing how a spec plays has ever affected his story for that character, good or bad. I have a female orc hunter whose story is intertwined with Tetsemi's male orc warrior, as they are brother and sister. With the change to survival spec, it spurred some interesting story ideas, from the simple learn to fight alongside each other melee style, aka Rexar, to deeper possibilities. Was the discovery of the spear artifact in Legion an impetus to the new fighting style? Did she fall out of favor with the bow/gun style, etc.? I'm wondering how much in-game mechanics change people's outlook on their stories for their characters. Keep up the great work, as always, Tetsemi. It's an interesting thought, right?
Yeah. Well, first off, any survival hunter going into Legion, obviously they thought that their spear was actually an arrow and tried to shoot it first, but unfortunately they broke the bow. They're left with the spear. That is the canonical reason why they're actually doing melee at this point.
I like to picture him out there like, yeah, I was trying to shoot it for a while, but you know what? Now I think I'm going to just stab stuff with it. That seems so much easier.
Yeah, I have to get a little closer, but you know what? It's big.
Just stab. Just stab him. It's good. I don't know. That's interesting. Now, first of all, I guess an important question here. Ben, I know you have a story for all your characters.
Yeah, or try to
or
at least.
generally. Ro, what about you? Do you typically have a story in mind for your character, or is that just your representation in the game?
I do have a story in mind for my character, and one thing I just want to point out specifically is I actually had an RP reason for my faction change when I switched from Ro, the human warlock, to Ro, the blood elf warlock. Ooh. And my explanation for it, and not that, you know, I was ever really role-playing Ro openly or whatever like that, there's this little item called the Orb of the Sindori, which happens to be a drop off of, it was, I want to say, Magister's Terrace, and it was a toy that let you turn into a blood elf for a period of time, right? It's like a lot of those toys do, that's a brief transformation. My backstory for Ro becoming a blood elf warlock was he used the Orb of the Sindori, and it broke, and it never changed him back.
Like his mother came out and was like, if you keep playing with that Orb of the Sindori, it's going to stick like that.
I
know what I'm doing, Mom. Don't talk to me.
That's pretty much my explanation. He used the Orb of Sindori, he used it, and he broke it, and he has never been able to revert back to being a human. So he's basically a human trapped in a blood elf body.
Unfortunately,
Mom, don't bother me. I'm in my room. Are you playing with your Orb of the Sindori again? No, Mom. Don't come in here.
I told you not
better
to come in here while I'm
playing with that
vacuuming.
orb. I'm not. What I'm doing in here is private. Leave me alone. Oh my.
But as far as Ro as a character kind of has a very lengthy backstory that if I were to explain it here, it might take longer than explaining a raid encounter. So let's not do that. But the short answer to your question is yes.
Okay, well, first of all, when you used it and broke it, was Ro standing in the middle of Stormwind and just went, "Oh crap"?
That's basically how I conveyed it. He used it while he was in town. The guards took care of him, and then when he basically rezzed or however recovered and stuff like that, he was in the barracks, or not the barracks, but the
Stockades?
the stockade. Yep. And so he basically had to stage an escape out of the stockade.
That is really cool.
That's very cool. Well, everybody, rub your orb with caution.
It's true.
Don't squeeze it; it might break.
Rose story. No, but that's cool to hear. So that's good to know, because that's kind of what we're talking about here. And so for me, I think one of the biggest ones, obviously, that I had is I went from playing a rogue as a main to a monk. That's not really a system change necessarily, but I did have to, in my mind, within my own character narrative, come up with a reason why my rogue started being a monk. And in a lot of ways, it actually made for a really compelling story, because I always have a story for my characters going through the expansion, and I was really having a hard time deciding what I wanted my story to be for Cataclysm, and then going into Mists of Pandaria. And so that ended up being a really interesting transition piece. But I also feel like this is the first really core big shakeup of class abilities, in a real profound kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, every time before
least.
that, it's just been talent trees or getting stuff hacked off. So it's like you can't really do story with, oh my gosh, my fireball doesn't do 5% more damage anymore.
I gotta write that into my story somehow. I mean, you could. I don't want to criticize people's creative output. If that was your story, more power to you, or 5% less power to you. I don't know, but at the same time, I feel like this is the first time where there's really been that kind of shakeup, and it's an interesting thought, because I've always had, when you take a look at something like a rogue, where, okay, maybe in vanilla I was using swords more often, but then, okay, well, that kind of fell out of favor, and then in Burning Crusade I was using sword and dagger. I think that was actually Lich King. But, there've been, these are the popular weapons you want to use if you want to raid. When it came to the story, it was always whatever I wanted. I never felt like I had to adhere it necessarily to the game, unless there was some item in the game that I was just like, oh no, I want that to be a part of their character and something that they wear.
Well, and Transmog helped out a ton with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Transmog first came, you and I were both like, oh my gosh, what can I do? And, we started farming old content just so that we can get the exact thing that we wanted.
Oh yeah, I remember that. We would do big runs just for transmog items.
Exactly.
There'd be 5 of us going places.
Back before we could solo stuff.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more of that happening in several months, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Especially if the dev team makes good on its vision to have the transmog system mimic what happens in Diablo. Transmog is going to be a pretty big deal. Running old content's going to... You thought it was crazy before. People are going to... Completionists will go crazy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I like doing that stuff. That stuff's always a lot of fun for me. And I guess also to this email, and I'll ask you guys as well, has there ever been a particular like lore reason behind your transmog look? Because I have the, not right now because I decided just to randomly go with a pirate thing as kind of a joke, but
Yar.
typically I wear that hat and the little cloth thing over your face from the Shadow Pan from Pandaria. And there was actually, for me, a character lore reason behind that, and that was a very important part of the story. So I used it in a lot of my transmogs for a while. Did either of you have any of those sorts of things where it was like, oh no, I need this because this is a part of who my character is?
Yes, for the goggles. So, yes, rose-colored goggles, blah blah blah. But when I finally took up engineering with Ro, regardless of what I had for the headpiece, I made sure that was transmog to goggles. Currently, I don't have the goggle transmog, but the character is still an engineer. But I'd say for about a good 9 months or so, he was wearing goggles, regardless of what the actual piece was.
Well, okay, this kind of goes in the same vein of things, and just kind of go with me on it. So, okay, Vanilla happens, everybody makes the characters, yay, we have characters, it's fun. Burning Crusade happens, yay, we still have the same characters, I'm kind of tired of how they look. Wrath hits, still, you know, I wish I could change it, boom, barbershop. So, I made my character the way that, you know, I pictured she would look as a blood elf and everything like that. I, you know, liked how it was. I leveled her and I was going through everything. She goes to Wrath of the Lich King, and Barbershop, it didn't come in right away, right? It was like a patch or two or something before it came in.
Yeah, I think it was in the game a ways when it came out.
Okay. So I'm going through Wrath, and I'm sitting there, and, you know, I figure it's a much colder climate. It's been a while since, you know, she hit level 70 and then up to 80 and everything like that. So when the barbershop finally came in, I went in there, and I looked at all the different hairstyles and everything, and while I liked what I had, and I remembered, okay, I wrote down the name of the hairstyle in case I ever wanted to go back to it or anything, I changed it so that she had longer hair to show, like, the passage of time. Plus, you know, I figure longer hair, it's cooler climate, it's keeping her warm and stuff. And it just totally made sense for me. I really liked it, so I'm like, hey, let's go with that. And the surprising thing is that I haven't changed her hairstyle since Wrath of the Lich King, just because I liked it that much more. So, you know, yay barbershop. As for gear, let's see, the set that I love the most is the tier 5 set for the mage, just because it looks awesome. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've collected a bunch of different gear. When I was able to have fire again as my spec, this expansion, I made, like, the coolest fiery-looking set that I possibly could. Be like, hey, guys, look, I'm going to burn the house down.
Fire's back, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just little things like that. You know, I'd pull out pets that coordinate with it and, you know, just different things like that because I'm that kind of geeky. But for Alanya, my mage, she doesn't have anything that's, like, incredibly core to her, but kind of with what I'm doing in-game, I'll change things. Like Pandaria, she very much embraced the culture, so I, you know, always had, like, one of those rope belts as best as I could, and just the Pandaria style to everything. With Warlords of Draenor, she's totally Frostwolf all the way. In fact, I really wish that I was completely exalted with the Frostwolves because I want to get the mount so she can ride it and all that, but I haven't done that yet, and you can't really get the set for her. But on my monk, if you're exalted with Vol'jin's Headhunters or whatever in Volmar, for like 450 gold, you can get a box that has all the other pieces that is the entire Frostwolf set. And they're all cosmetic, so you just transmog right into it. So that's one of the things that I did. Like, I got flying ready on Alanya, but for Pandalanya, I'm like, hey, you're going to get exalted, because guess what? You get to look exactly like you're working with the Frostwolves. And it's one of those things where, again, she, I don't know, in my mind, is someone who, you know, is definitely an explorer, embraces different cultures and everything like that. So when she joined the Frostwolves and became part of the clan, it only made sense that she's, you know, wearing their attire and representing them fully out there.
See, you're talking about this, and it's making me think about something as far as what I'm going to do with Row and Legion. And I've been tossing around some different ideas, and I'm thinking what I may do with Legion is kind of the exact opposite of what you're talking about. So, you have an expansion where the Burning Legion is invading all of Azeroth. Demons everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You gotta think that no warlock is really going to be looked upon as being, you know, an upstanding kind of guy or gal. So I think for Legion, I might go with a transmog that is as unwarlocky as possible. In fact, I do have a certain set of transmog, because it's all cloth gear, that could make Row look entirely like a priest, but I don't think I'll go that route. But yeah, I think I may go for... there are some mage offset pieces. Since Row is destruction and he does fire
Perfect.
spec, I could change his green fire back to orange fire, go with a mage set, and be like, yeah, I'm a fire mage. Yay! What's that demon next to you? I don't know. Kill it.
Oh my god,
weird.
there's a demon! Oh no, they're everywhere!
Where'd the demon come from? I don't know. It's hanging around.
Yeah,
That's
that's the one setback. Now, actually, I could, if you really wanted to go deep roleplay with it, you can use like the Grimoire of Sacrifice and just sacrifice your demon and go without a demon, and then you'd be really incognito because hey, it's just someone casting fire spells. No demon with him. He's all right, I guess. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll do something like that. We'll see. It's not like I'm serious into real hardcore rating, like I have to min-max everything as far as like my talents and stuff, so maybe I'll do that. Who knows?
It could be fun. I think so. I really think you should go with the priest set. I mean, think lore-wise. You're walking around looking like a priest and everything. They're like, quick, we need healing over here.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna go find somebody.
Here, have this well of healing things.
Healing candies by the
yeah.
light.
By the light.
I only have lime flavored by the light.
And you can only have it every 3
sorry.
minutes.
Yeah, it's
This
weird.
tastes kind of like anger and fury.
It tastes kind of like burning.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cool. It smells
It's
like
fine.
sulfur.
That's how you know it's working.
Yeah, bandages for the win. You just kind of lean over. It's like, oh, what's that over there? Shh, shh.
Hey, not too long ago, I was able to heal Volithir Dreamwalker to full with bandages. I soloed that stuff on my Warlock.
Wow.
Remember the days when first aid was really important?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Healers wouldn't heal you.
Back
Unless
in
you were the
Burning
tank.
Crusade, it was great.
It was so funny. Like, I just... Honestly, okay, here's a weird... we're going down a different avenue with this, but that's fine.
Yeah. That's what we
So, okay. We have said on the past that some of the fights feel a little bit too long nowadays. And I feel like even when we had a big discussion about it, we even said, like, but I think they might have been just as long back in the day. Why does it seem weird now? And I genuinely believe that one of the reasons is because we've gotten into this very narrow-minded, like, this is your role, this is what you do, repeat these steps, execute properly through these phases, and that's it. Because when I think of, like, raiding in Burning Crusade and stuff like that, or, like, Vanilla WoW, actually, I remember times where it was like, oh shoot, I've taken too much raid damage, the healers aren't going to heal me, I need to stop doing my DPS, get out of the, you know, attack zone, bandage myself up to full, and then go back in and do it. Is another active thing you're doing amidst all the fighting that's going on, is occasionally you would have to do these asides, because it wasn't just a case of, oh, you're going to get blanketed healed and everything's going to be fine and dandy.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't notice the length of the fights as much because there was a bit more variety to what you were doing.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I remember way back when we were actually, you know, fighting Void Reaver, and I didn't get my shoulders for 5 months straight. You know, that was one of those fights where, you know, we had 25 people in there, and I think we had like 5-6 healers or something, but they did focus mostly on the tanks because they're the ones who are getting the damage. And it's your responsibility not to stand where the ball of, nastiness hits so that you don't get hit. If you make that mistake, not only are you ranged and silenced, you do have to heal yourself. And you better do it at the right time, because a misplaced self-heal means that your bandage is on cooldown and you didn't get any health from it the first time.
Right.
So I have a question for you guys. One thing I've noticed as raid encounters have gone on is that we have more encounters where there are actual phases to the encounter, right? Mm-hmm. In the older raid encounters, it was pretty much one phase, but certain abilities that you had to handle and mitigate and all that stuff. The Void Reaver is a great example of it. It didn't really have two. It was a single phase encounter. Do you think that these encounters with multiple phases kind of add on to that illusion of a fight feeling longer than it actually is? Because when you're doing just a single phase of mechanics and stuff to deal with, there is it in the back of your mind. You're thinking about, oh, here comes the next phase coming about. That whole sense of a process of this, then this, then this isn't even in your head. So you're not even thinking about how much time has elapsed so far. You're just in your rhythm doing your thing, so time isn't even on your mind as much. Whereas when you have multiple phases, okay, here's the part of the song where things go this way and that way, right, and such. Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because, and I think you're right to some degree at the very least, maybe totally on it, but I was also reading in the chat Sasori saying, personally, I think boss fights are too predictable. The fact that you can just read a strat and that it isn't random even slightly, that you know what's coming, you just have to be ready and hope everyone is raid aware. I think that's also kind of going along with what you're saying and is true, because recently I was interviewed by Lita and she asked me what my favorite boss encounter was. And I was trying to think of all the raid bosses and all of that. And I don't know if she meant from Siege or, from what time period, but ultimately I said, I had a lot of fun with Spoils. I didn't initially. We all know that initially I thought it was
it's just trash.
It's the trash boss, and I don't like trash. But ultimately, I really liked that fight, and I think one of the major reasons why I liked that fight is you had some say, you had some control. It wasn't, okay, guys, we need to drop down. At 30 seconds, these boxes are going to open. Then at 40 seconds, these boxes will open. And then, 45, it was like, no, I could go around and click boxes I wasn't supposed to and speed up that fight and have some fun doing it. And that was always very rewarding because there was this unpredictable element to it. There was this quality of like, no, we have some say, we have some ownership of this encounter and how fast it moves. So, like, I like that. And I think that good boss encounters and good boss mechanics are ones where you have some random element to it or some, control over the encounter in some way to make it different from time to time. And it's not just the robotic, like Simon says, like, just make sure you hit all the right things at the right time.
I think one of my favorite encounters in Wrath of the Lich King, I'm going to sound blasphemous for saying this, but I liked faction champions in the Trial of the Crusader. And a lot of people hated that encounter. They thought it was miserable. They didn't want PvP-like stuff happening in their raid. But I loved it because each time the set of champions that you faced was different, but the fight was still pretty much the same as far as what you had to do. You had to assign crowd control. You had to figure, okay, which of these targets is the biggest threat? Go for that one. And I don't know. While it had a lot of randomness in it as far as like who you were facing, it didn't seem as bad to me as an encounter like the dogs in Mists of Pandaria. That's an example where the randomness on like which dogs were up on a particular week, if you were doing 10-man, was just aggravating. But faction champions I loved because you had all these different little moving parts and you could assign okay, you're going to be in charge of crowd control. We're going to focus this person down first. Then we're going to lust. We're going to take out this healer. So yeah, I loved faction champions for that. And that never seemed like a long fight to me. And I think one of the reasons for that is as you're taking down different champions, you could feel like you were making progress. One of the things with some of these fights is the only way you can tell you are making progress is by glancing at a bar and seeing that percentage point go down closer and closer to 0. And then with some encounters, that's not even necessarily the case, because then the boss goes to full hit points or something in the next phase or whatever. But I like encounters where you just get the feeling that progression is visibly being made without necessarily having to look at a health bar.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. They really need to balance what RNG is going out there versus what isn't. You know, just recently we have, you know, kind of an issue in the current raid that we're running where I think it's not Gorefiend, it's the dude before him. Was it
Kilrog?
Yeah, where it's random on who gets the Heartseeker, random on, you know, where things are spawning and all that stuff and everything. And it's like, if you put too much in there, it makes the plan that the raid team's kind of depending on just totally destroyed. But at the same time, if it's not enough, then it's just kind of, you know, it's patchwork. And I'm not saying that patchwork is a bad fight, because it's good for a specific reason. It's just that too much random just isn't as much fun. I mean, having some sort of plan of attack that you can alter as you need is much more enjoyable. Like the random chaos that happens in, like, say, the Dark Shamans. I mean, you know what's going to happen, but it'll kind of randomly happen in certain places or on certain people. But for the most part, you still have, you know, more control over it than something like Kilrog, which is like, oh, well, this person who's supposed to go into the portal thing just got the Heartseeker. Let's hope they get back in time. You know, something along those lines.
What did you think of the Klaxi encounter in Siege?
That's the thing. That when that is random, that's when that just goes all to hell. I mean, just the random bosses that are coming down, which is why they completely changed it.
Right.
If that had stayed that way, I think I probably would have hated it. It took us a little while to kind of figure out. Well, no, we actually one-shotted that the first time we tried it, didn't we?
Yep. By then, they had already made the fix.
Exactly. So we got in there. We were able to, you know, figure out what we needed to do. There was still enough chaos going on that, I mean, we had some really, really messy successes in that. But... Well, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think ultimately it comes down to what is random and when is too much, and like what do we mean by random elements. So you take the Klaxi fight, right, and you say, okay, well, randomly you're going to get an order, like you're not going to know. That's too much, because then you're going to run into scenarios where people are saying, oh, we got this order of enemies and it's just not going to work and we're not going to be able to beat it. Like, that's not fun RNG. That's not interesting. That's not good. That's going to feel bad. But you say, okay, we have a set order of that, but they have all these abilities that they can use. And there is a slight random element. Like, there's no way to guarantee, oh, this is the person that's going to get targeted by this. Or, oh, they're definitely going to hit this here every single time. That, to me, is the right kind of random. The kind of stuff that you can quasi-prepare for, but you still have to react to in the battle itself. And it's not just a, oh, nope, guys, now this part of the floor is going to explode. We need to move here.
It shouldn't be so random that you feel like you're relearning the encounter every week you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Which kind of happened with the dogs, depending on what you got.
Yeah.
Kind of. But, I mean...
So, I mean, I think there's a level, right?
Yeah, I would say so. But then... Yep. When there are, you know, different aspects of the fight that you can control, John, you mentioned spoils. That is a big one, because I know your favorite thing to do was just go in there and like, oh, I'm just going to open this box now. And let's open this one. I know that's, what is it, Thok? That was the big dinosaur?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one I loved because we were really able to control it well. You know, if we had a composition that was mostly ranged, we can keep them in the phase that actually worked well for us. If it just happened to be a week where it's like, hey, we have like way more melee, what's up with that? We can actually work it with it that. You know, we would change how we would actually do the fight, you know, when we would actually hit Bloodlust or Time Warp or Heroism if you're weird. And, you know, just totally be able to adjust to what our team needs. In fact, that's one of the things, at least back in Siege of Orgrimmar, that we really talked about is, okay, guys, you know, this is kind of the strat that we're kind of going with, but we're going to have to alter it and make the changes that work for our team. And that definitely worked with the Gary fight because, I mean, it's a great fight. We just learned that we can't have a phase where there's ads. So we got to the point where we just busted through so fast that we were able to skip a step, and then we were just successful from that point on.
Well, and look at a fight like I think his name was Black Fuse, the one with the conveyor belt and all the weapons. So to me, that's a fight that has potential to have some really cool, interesting mechanics to it, but ultimately doesn't. Now, again, we were a flex mode team. That's where I saw the fight beyond LFR. So there's a good chance maybe heroic and mythic raiders out there are like, no, it was totally a great fight because of blah, blah, blah. Understand where I'm coming from when I say this, but it wasn't, to me, very interesting because as someone who was on the conveyor belt team, in fact, all three of us were the conveyor belt team.
Go Team Flex Mode!
That's right. So every time it was this set, like, no, this is what we destroy on the conveyor belt. This is the order. Every single time, this is what it's going to be. But you can very easily see where that fight could be interesting if the conveyor belt team had to have more of a reaction to what was going on in the raid fight itself. If the raid fight had been a little less like, oh, here's what you do, and a little more like he might do something, he might not, and the conveyor belt team makes decisions to assist with that, to me, that seems really interesting. That seems like it could have made that fight more exciting than it was.
Yeah. So if the belt hadn't been scripted, if each time you encounter it, the machinery is not necessarily the same thing every time, you'd be okay with that because then the team kind of has to make a judgment call. Okay, with these three, who are we going to target? And then, okay, let's kill this one.
Or, I mean, even something as simple as take a look at it and say, okay, well, you know, forget about his little, like, other helper that comes out and some of his moves. Maybe his special moves are all of a sudden he throws out way more saws than he normally would do. Like, maybe that's one of his special moves. You don't know that he's going to do it, but he might do it. Then you tell the conveyor belt team at that time, hey, no, you guys have to do the thing to get the saws out of here because he just went crazy with them. Those need to get out of here. And then, you know, depending on the other abilities he's using, maybe something else is the better decision. And make it less like, nope, this is the order we kill things on the conveyor belt, and then when we're not on the conveyor belt, this is where we fight him, this is when we target this is when we move out of here. Like, to me, that makes that encounter more interesting than it ultimately came across.
Oh,
so
I agree.
You know, with all this talk about rating, I think it kind of begs an interesting question when Legion coming up, rather than trying to predict what's going to come up in Legion. But, I mean, John, you're rating off again and on again with our team. Ben, you're there every week. I try to be there when I can. And do both of you feel like Warlords of Draenor rating was better than Mists of Pandaria? And then I guess the other question I have is, does rating need to change in Legion, and how?
Okay.
So go ahead, Ben. Ben, you go.
So here's the thing. I had a lot more fun in Mists of Pandaria. Now, let me explain that I'm still not entirely sure if it's because, you know, I was able to play my mage and things hit harder and there were explosions everywhere, or even if I was arcane or whatever. I don't know if that's playing into it. Keep in mind, I'm enjoying healing in Hellfire a lot. I'm having a blast with it. I didn't like a lot of the encounters in Highmaul. I didn't like a lot of the encounters in Blackrock. It seemed like Blizzard, completely changed their focus and moved towards, okay, it has to be personal responsibility as opposed to working with a team to get some of this stuff done. And I don't know, maybe just my gameplay style is a lot more team-based than anything else, and I think that Mists of Pandaria, raid-wise, that actually helped. I mean, we're all, I don't know, the Misty Kings thing where they pop out of the windows and stuff from Mogashan Vaults, that felt like a team thing. It's like the tanks are doing their thing, the healers are doing their thing, the DPS is doing their thing, there's kind of an order. I mean, it's not all that, random on what's happening, but you're coming together and working on this. Whereas in Highmaul, it's like, oh, okay, well, everybody, make sure you're not standing in that thing right now. Oh, no, they're still standing in that thing. We wiped.
The team thing's interesting because you think about Siege of Orgrimmar. Galakras had a very team kind of thing going on with it. Black Fuse had a team thing going on with it. Even Garrosh had a team thing going on with it when you would go into the heart and then one group would go left, the other group would go right. There's a cat on the Twitch screen right now. I couldn't ignore that. I'm sorry.
You did it again, Ro.
I know.
You did it again.
I know.
Hey, guys, you know what everybody hates?
Talking about Twitch on the podcast. But getting back to my point, can you think of encounters in Warlords where we had some of that kind of team element going on? There has to be a couple. I'm just struggling to think of.
So far in Hellfire, there's Kilrock. The people who go into the little phase.
So I think, to kind of answer your first question a little bit and also kind of answer your second one, it's really interesting to me because I'm kind of with Ben where I want to just immediately say Mists of Pandaria rating was better. Like, bar none, just there's your answer. But I'm also kind of with him in the, I don't know if that's true, but it feels like that's the way it feels to me.
Yeah.
But I do think, the first fight in Highmaul against Blade Fist, like, I like that fight a lot, actually. I actually, that's one of my favorite encounters. I thought it was a perfect forget the lore behind it, because there's definitely a problem with knocking off one of your warlords in the very first encounter. Also, why is he there? Also, why is he a gladiator in the pit again? Like, what's going on?
Right.
But all of that aside, the encounter itself was a lot of fun, and I really liked it. And it also did have kind of that team element. Who are the people that are going up into the stands? And there's going to be people going up there. It's not a huge one, but it's a bit of one. But it also felt like there were just a lot of fun mechanics to that. Seeing people jump off the top and land in a tiger cage because they weren't paying attention, and you just see the guts go flying everywhere because they went in there.
Or the best time when I blinked into the tiger pit.
There you go.
I'm like, oh crap!
So that I thought was a really, really fun fight. I don't want to say that Warlords has been devoid of fun or entertaining fights. I actually really like the second boss fight of Hellfire Citadel. I actually think that one's a lot of fun.
Oh, where you fight Samus?
Yeah, where you fight giant green Samus. I think that's really cool. I think on paper the first fight of Hellfire Citadel is interesting. It ultimately just feels like a ton of trash pulls all at once, but
yeah.
I think on paper the idea of we're buying time for them to break down this door is a cool idea. So I don't know. I'm inclined to say Mists of Pandaria, although I hated everything in Throne of Thunder. I think Throne of Thunder is one of the worst raids they have ever done in the history of the game. And I know there's people that are firm believers that that's a great raid. Not for me. I hated that.
It's weird because they tried when Throne of Thunder was first introduced, they were drawing so many parallels to, remember Ulduar? Throne of Thunder is going to bring that Ulduar feeling kind of back, and it so did not do that for a lot of people.
See, it's kind of funny because the Ulduar fights, and I mean, for lack of a better word, a lot of them were gimmicky. but in such the good way. Whereas with Throne of Thunder, I mean, maybe it's only because I did mostly LFR on it, but they were just long. It wasn't that much fun going through most of that stuff. And I mean, we had to slog our way through for a ton of it. I mean, you have dude with the mount who's flying around. You have to kill him like 10 times before he's actually dead. You have the council fight where it's like, okay, well, now we switch to this person. Now we switch to this one. Oh, there's that thing. Got to kill it. Now we switch to that one. I mean, it's just like everything you did in that was just protracted boredom. Whereas with Ulduar...
I liked Lei Shen, though.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, I liked Lei Shen.
There is more to that fight that I enjoyed than the entirety of the rest of the raid. Mm-hmm. I did like the one where you turn into a lizard. That was kind of cool. But, anyways, like I said, Ulduar had gimmicky stuff that was actually a lot of fun to experience at the time. I mean, with Hodir, you had, do we let these people out? Do we not? Hey, look, there's fires. Oh, make sure you're jumping, and, just random stuff like that. Thorum, you have the away team that goes. I mean, there's so much fun stuff in there, whereas Throne of Thunder is just...
Gosh, I love the Hodir fight so much.
That
was such a fun fight.
It's like, oh, get out of these circles. Oh, crap, get in this one. Then does the deep freeze, and then you have to help people.
Stand in Moonbeam.
Yeah. Oh, this is a fun fight.
It's like, oh, I've got the lightning on me, and I'm standing next to fire, and I'm in the Moonbeam. Guess what? Hodir's dead.
So one of the things that I find also interesting is we're talking about all these old fights and just the nostalgia. Like, remember those fights? Yeah, they were great. And I think part of it is because with those fights, they were the first time that we were introduced to mechanics that we never quite experienced before in that way. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like is part of the problem, for lack of a better word, with Warlords that it didn't feel like there were as many creative encounters?
Well, I almost feel like it's gotten too creative, or attempted to be too creative.
They tried too hard?
Yeah, I feel like there is a fear, and it's understandable because in a lot of ways we're talking about, and this is why we have different raid difficulties, we're talking about people who want very different things out of raiding. LFRs probably just want to see the content or work towards whatever the quest is, or maybe they're just not into actual raiding, and therefore that's a way for them to get in and experience it, and that's going to be their window to it. For us on normal, it's a chance to hang out with friends. It's a chance to talk about anime till you get yelled at. It's a chance to have fun, see the story, see the content, have a bit of a challenge, and get through it. But that's about all we want. Heroic, probably looking for a bigger challenge. They're probably the ones that are actually like, no, we want to see new, we want to see different, we want to be challenged, we want all of this. And then Mythic, bring on the insanity, basically, at the Mythic level. So for me, there is this element of, I want to say flat out, like, there's no reason why they can't repeat essentially boss encounters. Not to say, like, oh, here's this fight exactly as it was before again. But there's no reason why they have to bolt on 8 different mechanics just to make it new. Mm-hmm. It's okay if you have a fight that in structure and form perfectly resembles a fight that has happened before. And it's just now presented in a slightly different way. But I feel like they've gotten to this point where they're so afraid of doing anything that's at all like something they've done before, that it's like, okay, well, we need to add 8 different phases, and here's all the ads that need to be in here, and let's pile all this stuff on top of it so we have something new. And I don't think that there's an end game to that isn't the most insane thing in the world, and isn't a problem. Yeah. So I think it's a bad place for them to be in.
I'm all for new mechanics and trying out different things, and this is something that I think we've touched on or talked about before, but I mean, you're right. When you have an encounter and Oprah comes out and says, you get a new ability, and you get a new ability, and you get a new ability, and just there's so much going on, and again, it falls under a lot of personal responsibility. So teams like ours kind of struggle with some of that sometimes. But they're just basically translating that up to either more damage or the boss has more health or something like that, as opposed to Mythic is the one that should have all like the extra phases and abilities and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, our level or something like that, it should be challenging and fun, but not just overwhelmed with you have to play exactly perfectly, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that there are a number of encounters at normal difficulty today that if you were to introduce those encounters in the era of Wrath of the Lich King, people would be like, what?
Well,
and just so many, they'd say that it was the most challenging things they've ever seen, harder than Heroic Lich King. Yeah. If some people saw some of these encounters, they'd say, and it's just this kind of not power creep, but complexity creep, really, that just seems to keep on going. And maybe things need to be toned back a bit, at least for normal. And I mean, that's the big thing right now. You have this deal where Raid Finder is really super nerfed. Some mechanics are completely removed. And when normal and heroic, the only difference really is numbers, right? The mechanics-wise, the fights are generally still the same. And one thing that I've seen some people talk about, and I've actually agreed with this at times, but I think it's kind of a vocal minority really that says this, is I feel that normal and heroic can afford to be somewhat mechanically different rather than just numbers. At least this expansion, I felt like normal could somehow be a step mechanically between what you experience in Raid Finder and what you experience in Heroic, because you don't want to, if you want to have a fun time when you, in friends and family style guild and stuff like that, you don't want to necessarily be involved in an encounter where everything's just given to you on a silver platter, but at the same time you don't want to deal with an encounter where there are 7 or 8 different things that you have to think of going on at the same time. And it's a challenge for the dev team, I can imagine, because do you spend the time to create 4 completely distinct versions of one same encounter, or would you rather spend that time making more bosses and more content? I have no idea, not being a game developer, I have no idea exactly how much time is involved in creating the different difficulties from one another, so I can't really say.
As a player, it seems to me that the best course of action would be, you know, you have your normal and your heroic, and they have the same mechanics and everything. Heroic is, you know, again, more boss health, hits harder, something along those lines. Then Mythic is where they have all the extra stuff. You get 2 encounters at that point, and it's tuning. And again, I'm not a developer, so I could just be totally making stuff up. But it's something that they've done in the past. Most of the time, you know, like when we went to, say, old raids and we're farming achievements or something like that, we go into, say, Firelands. It's, okay, on Heroic, what does this boss do differently? You know, back then when there was only normal and Heroic. And, I mean, especially Ragnaros. If you were on that top tier, hey, look, you got to see him in shorts with legs and little tennis shoes. Whereas if you weren't, he's still alive somewhere and, you know, he'll be back at some point. Whereas you actually defeat